Public sector versus private sector. This has been the point of discussion in thousands of debates to gauge which sector is the biggest contributor to the economy and a country's growth plan. Most communists, closet communists, and teenagers having newly read Karl Marx diss capitalism and in turn the private sector. Add to this list thousands of employees enrolled in the public sector banks who will come at your throat the moment you talk about privatization. However, data cannot be partial. It will always lay bare the truth. And Motilal Oswal and its One Source report has done just that. The truth is the private sector is the OG while public sector continues to crawl at a pace slower than that of the slowest snail in the world. Hi and welcome to TFI English, the national socio-political analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. And I'm your host, Piyush. In this video, I will tell you about the Motilal Oswal report that pretty much settles the debate on the decades-old question. Let's begin. In a recent wealth creation study by Motilal Oswal, one of India's leading stock brokerage firms has found that over the last 25 years, the biggest and consistent players across India Inc. to provide the most significant returns have been the private players. However, peculiarly, the much famed government-backed PSUs or the public sector undertaking languish at the bottom of the list. The liberal lobby, along with the opposition, often has two names on its lips to target the corporate culture in India: Reliance and Adani. However, in what may come as a heartburn moment for them, both private giants have been at the top of the pile in wealth creation. Oil to telecom conglomerate Reliance Industries or RIL has emerged as country's largest wealth creator, adding a staggering 9.6 trillion rupees over the past 5 years. Profit from RIL jumped 8% annually over this time, while its share price compounded at 31% annually. Meanwhile, Adani Transmission has emerged as the fastest wealth creator over the period of 2016 to 2021, compounding wealth at compounded annual growth rate of 93%. The brokerage firm also added that Adani Enterprise has been the top all-round wealth creator. The top 100 companies created 71 trillion rupees wealth in past 5 years, by far the highest ever wealth created in the last 26 5-year periods according to the study. They delivered returns of 25% CAGR versus 14% for the BSE Sensex. The study revealed that private sector banks created 2,293 billion rupees in net worth wealth from 1995 to 2020, while the public sector banks only generated 901 billion rupees. Even if the public sector banks and their contribution to welfare schemes is gauged, the numbers are woefully shy of the private sector banks. Even the biggest think tank in the country believes that the development chariot of India in the future will be driven by the private sector. Rajiv Kumar, Vice Chairman NITI Ayog, recently remarked, "I sincerely believe that we are now in the cusp of a major change. With all transformation that has been done in the past 7 years in terms of foundational, structural, difficult reforms, I think we have now put a framework in place where we will see the private sector driving the growth and being in the driver's seat going forward." However, there has been a growing trend, and the viewer must have observed, where PSBs and their employees routinely leave their day jobs and sit on dharnas, munching on food and enjoying themselves while claiming to fight the government and its plans to privatize the public sector banks. They do not want their authority to be questioned, and they particularly don't want to serve the people efficiently, as it will interfere with their corrupt escapades, and thus they will protest against privatization. As reported by TFI, employees of public sector banks went on a 2-day strike against the Modi government last week to protest against the introduction of Banking Laws Amendment Bill 2021 in the winter session of the parliament. With the public banks putting huge pressure on the exchequer, the government is even planning to privatize a few of them, starting with IDBI Bank. Recently, RBI announced that it will be creating a new security clearance framework for screening potential bidders of PSBs. The process will be different from the privatization of other PSUs, as more restrictions and measures will be embedded in the process. In the Union Budget in February this year, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman repeated the proposal and set a target of disinvestment worth 1.7 lakh crore rupees by privatizing and selling stake in public sector banks. With the approval of Union Cabinet, the process will start very soon. Consolidation and privatization of the banking sector are necessary for the expansion and growth of the financial sector in the country. The banking sector is displaying the role of a decelerator in the economic growth of the country, given the fact that credit penetration in India is one of the lowest in the world. The reason behind this lackluster performance of Indian banking sector is the domination of the public sector banks, which account for around 70% of the country's banking industry. It has been almost 5 decades since Indira Gandhi nationalized banking in 1969 with the intention to improve lending in strategic areas. But since then, the banking story of the country has only gotten worse. Taking a leaf out of their book, over 20,000 employees of the Jammu and Kashmir Power Development Department went on an indefinite strike last Friday to protest against the privatization of the sector. The rogue employees cut the power lines and almost 50 to 80% parts of the union territory had to face blackouts. The government must push against the unions and implement the banking and power sector reforms as soon as possible. The study has proved that public sector has been sluggish and lethargic. Privatization is the future and the government must take an unwavering stand. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to TFI English. This is Piyush signing off until the next one.